Honored to be here. I'm so thankful for what you and so many engaged parents have done to open people's eyes about what is happening in education. I know that it's a fight.
This is the most important fight that we will ever fight in any of our lifetimes. 2 weeks went to 3 years real quick, and 3 years is going to communism even quicker. I demand the following now. Greg Little, step down from your position immediately. You have 48 hours to comply with every demand in this letter. Number 2, all illegal activities, including but not limited to the unlawful quarantine of healthy students, contact tracing, required medical testing of healthy students, and or discrimination against unvaccinated students in Lexington 1 must stop within 48 hours. Number 3, any and all vaccine clinics at any schools stop and shut down, in addition to the immediate estoppel of any encouragement of any vaccine within the public school system. Number 4, you renegotiate all of your terms under the most recent ESSER funds taken, and moving forward, any line item funds that you agree to must be voted on by the parents in this district, as the parents will now be the primary stakeholders.
There were also some things going around about you sitting on the board of directors for the governor's school, and their specific requirements for diversity training. And myself included, I am against CRT. I am against any diversity, equity, anything like that.
I can, through this office, lead a charge in South Carolina to stand up against that kind of craziness. And when there are these guilt by association smear campaigns that go out against conservatives who are actually in the arena trying to make a difference, it makes other conservatives think twice about serving.
Would you put Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris in charge of South Carolina schools? What about their friend, liberal Kathy Manis?
I also thanked Kathy Manis.
What do you say, about people? How are you in touch with the grassroots, right?
Yes, in South Carolina, our General Assembly really controls most of the levers of power in this state.
Right.
So you have to work that policy in conjunction with the General Assembly, with the governor, in order to get things done. And that's what I've spent the last 10 years of my life doing here in Columbia, and 12 years prior to that working for Senator DeMint in Washington. The only way we are ever going to change education in this state is if we harness the voice of grassroots activists. Because as you know, I'm running against someone who is very much a member of the education status quo. This election is the most important election in South Carolina this year. You know who someone is by what they've done, not what they say, but by what they've done. If we allow the status quo to continue to run our education system, we have lost the country.
What's up, guys? Corey Allen here, the Overton Report and the Overton Group.
So yeah, we are here on the steps of the Capitol building. The walls have been taken down, the gates have been taken down. Storming the Capitol, storming the Capitol.
Here with Ellen Weaver. She is one of the 2 people who made it to the Republican primary runoff. We have asked Kathy Manis, your opponent, some questions, and her response was to block everybody that is involved with the Overton Group.
I oppose any kind of woke indoctrination.
For those who don't know, DE&I is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, so you don't believe in diversity? It's like, no, I just don't believe in, this leftist or this insane solution to a problem that may or may not even exist in the first place. What can the state of South Carolina, what can the state superintendent do with something like that?
Saying no to federal dollars is probably the place to start. And we will have to have a conversation about what that means for how we fund education in this state. But I truly believe we are coming to a moment of crisis where we've been able to just kind of bump along and say, okay. I mean, we know we only get 10% of our total education budget from the federal government right now.
Is that right?
So, federal dollars right now, a lot of them support special education, and it also supports children in poverty. So those are very real questions about how do we continue to fund them if we say no to federal dollars. And that's a conversation that has to be had in conjunction with the General Assembly. I know Superintendent Zais, during his tenure, tried to say no to federal dollars. And of course, there was the predictable outrage.
America does not need to spend more money or hire more staff for our schools. Yet the forces of the status quo continue to insist otherwise.
Oh, you hate children, trying to deny children opportunity. I believe it starts with having a superintendent courageous enough to make the case. So it's going to take an all hands on deck effort. I think a lot about, the Marshall Plan that it took to rebuild Europe. And I think it's going to basically take a Marshall Plan to rebuild education in this state.
In 2020 and 2021, we saw schools shut down. We saw children isolated.
Hi, my name is Ellen Weaver, and I'm honored to be the chairman of the South Carolina Education Oversight Committee. It's a joy to be here today to celebrate Virtual School Month. I actually am the cousin of a proud virtual school graduate, so I've seen firsthand how these incredible schools make an impact in helping students achieve their goals. Even before COVID, we saw these schools helping students who had health conditions, or maybe students who had work goals or athletic goals or music goals for their extracurricular activities. And these schools create the flexibility that these students need to achieve their dreams. And now in the COVID environment, virtual schools are leading the way for South Carolina.
So I believe as superintendent, what I would have done is work with the General Assembly, work with the governor, instead of working against them as my opponent did, to reopen schools. Our teachers are so tired, and the discipline issues that they are dealing with in the classroom, and many times feeling unsupported in those discipline issues because of what I call defensive discipline that administrators feel like they have to practice because they're scared of civil rights violation, reporting with the federal government. There were a lot of changes to how we do discipline, and some of it was probably necessary, but others of it was really based on kind of this worldview that we were talking about before that's very much driven by kind of a woke social justice kind of mentality. I think about like veterans who are very facile at handling a weapon, right?
Yeah.
So could they come in some kind of support role if they are highly trained to help harden the infrastructure of our schools, right?
The governor's school talks about, and a lot of their things that they put out to people, they'll use some of that jargon, that woke jargon.
The only way we're ever going to change anything is if people of good sense and good faith get involved. And so I would just encourage your audience to not get caught up in what I call guilt by association. Guilt by association, woke indoctrination, status quo. When I saw the woke things, the status quo, and the status quo.
The forces of the status quo.
You know who someone is by what they've done, not what they say, but by what they've done.